welcome back to the video. You are watching a try-on color match first impressions of the new Fenty Beauty Eaze Drop Tinted Moisturizer. That's what I think it is. They're calling it a blurring skin tint. It's fairly new. This is the latest and greatest from Fenty in their complexion range. Those of you who've been wearing Fenty for a while may be familiar with some of their other foundations. I currently own the Pro Filter Hydrating Long Wear Foundation. I will do a shade swatch for you in just a second. But for me, this is just my try-on. I haven't put this on my face yet. If you are looking for a full review, this is not the video for you. I'm literally putting on my face, seeing how the color looks, giving you guys my first impressions on the product. So if that is what you're interested in, then keep on watching. Okay, so let's talk colors for a second. I like to wear something that can show you like my natural skin tone, you know, where it's not sunned and everything. So for me, I find my forehead tends to be the darkest part of any exposed skin, and then the rest of my face is a smidge darker than my natural skin tone, which is my neck and my shoulders, everything you can see here. I've got both shades of both Fenty complexion products I currently own. On this side is the Pro Filter in 120. It runs quite peachy, I feel like, and this is the Eaze Drop in number 2. This is not the recommended shade on the site to match with the Pro Filter in 120. They would put me into shade number 1, but I felt like number 1 was too pale and probably too peachy. I will say 120 is not the perfect color match for me in Fenty. Even with all the shades that they do have, I think I'm more of a mix between 120 and 130. I think 130 is the color that is quite olive and maybe just a little too olive for me. But if I were to blend those two together, they seem like they would be perfect. I just didn't want to get too Pro Filter hydrating. So hopefully you can see this reasonably well. This is 120 in Pro Filter, and this is number 2 in the Eaze Drop. I think this is a fairly good shade. It might be a smidge dark compared to my neck and chest, but with my face it looks pretty good. And like I said, 120 seems a little peachy in the Pro Filter. So I'm going to clean this off and apply the rest of Eaze Drop to my face. Now I don't know how much I actually need, so I just did a little blob like that. You can see it is fairly runny. It has a very mild scent, nothing bothersome. It feels quite serumy again, like smooth and almost creamy, just shy of creamy. I am actually going to apply with my fingers, which I will say is not my favorite way to apply foundation, but with most tinted moisturizers, this does seem to be the recommended method. Now, I'm not rubbing it into my skin. I find that no matter how well I exfoliate, I do tend to have a little bit of flakies, so I don't want to exacerbate and, you know, draw attention to that. It feels a little bit silicone-y, slippy in that way, but it blended in, no issues, and did not seem to pick up on any patches. Mind you, whenever I do a foundation video, I do try to exfoliate really well, but you know, can't win all the time. So I think color is fairly good. If I did go with the recommended shade number 1, it probably would still work, but going into the summer, I think shade 2 is the better match. Shade 1 would just be probably a better match for my neck, but may show up slightly too pale. Now, how Fenty has worked it out is that they've grouped a couple of the foundation shades into each of the Eaze Drop colors. So I think for my forehead, I'm gonna need the sponge. It's a little hard to get around the eyebrows. And they've grouped maybe 3 or 4 different foundation shades into each of the Eaze Drop. My understanding is that the Eaze Drop does have some flexibility to it because, you know, it's not a full coverage, of course. It's more of a light coverage, medium at best, I think. It's meant to be a really skin blurring foundation, which at this point, on this half of my face, I think I would agree. It does look quite blurring. Okay, it's catching a little bit on my nose. I'll show you that in just a second, hopefully in a close-up. But I'm gonna do another slight layer over this side of my face, just in the zones where I have ice pick scarring and just really large pores, because that's where I would want the most blurring. I like the finish of it. It's a very satin skin-like finish. It doesn't look too glowy. I'm not expecting this to feel or look greasy throughout the day. So let me pull back a little. This is Eaze Drop on this half of my face in shade number 2. And this is Bare Skin on this side. More or less half in the middle. So I do think the finish is gorgeous. It's completely either absorbed into my skin or set on my skin. There is zero tackiness, wow. And coverage, I will say, is light. In the mirror, what I can see is just, I would say the blurring effect is more of what I see versus any color coverage. I can see the redness from here is reduced. You know, blemishes like these guys are still hanging out, but I think that's the point of concealer. They recommend that in any of the looks I've seen so far on social media. So I am going to apply it to this side of my face, and then we'll get in close and check out if it's picking up any dry spots or flakies. I'm noticing a little bit on my nose, but it might just be one of those inevitable situations. We've now got a substantial layer over my entire face. I did not bring it down to my neck. Looking into the mirror right now, I feel like my chest and shoulders is a smidge more olive / pale yellow than my face. My face with this on looks fairly neutral. I don't think it's darker per se. It's a good tone, it's a good intensity match, but I don't know if it's the best tone match. However, I don't think it's super noticeable. Let me know how you feel about it in the mirror compared to my shoulders and my chest. I will say I noticed the blurring effect very evidently actually in the mirror, even though I don't have my glasses on, I'm kind of far away. Like, I can tell my skin feels and looks smoother visually. There is 32 mils to a bottle of this. I wouldn't call it the most expensive product, but definitely not, you know, cheap either. I found I was using quite a bit of product. I don't know why. Maybe it's my first time. I still need to adjust, but I felt like I went in twice, like, to get, you know, the whole face on. I love the coverage. I think the coverage is so natural. It's a beautiful satin finish. I do think it sets. It's got some kind of a setting agent, because I was trying to clean off what was on my fingers, and it's really gotten stuck in the crevices, and just with a wet paper towel was not taking it off. I probably have to soap it off. So that leads me into thinking, while you're applying the foundation, make sure you just, like, you know, do it quick and not just wait around, because once it starts setting, and I was trying to rework it on this side of my face, I started smushing it around and it got a little streaky. So you don't want to be overworking semi-set foundation or skin tint, whatever this is. But that aside, I want to show you what's happening in my nose zone, which tends to be where the flakies come out. I did a really, as best as I can, exfoliation of my whole face this morning. I still felt like there's a bit of catching happening here. So if you can work around that, I think the rest of my skin, where it's fairly flake free, if you will. Looks really good. In between the eyebrows look pretty good. Again, I do think this is fairly blurring, that is for sure. And with the setting component, I think it will actually be fairly long lasting as well. So overall, first impressions of the Fenty Eaze drop, great potential. I think color is okay enough for me not to be bothered by it. This, in a strange way, reminds me of the MAC Face and Body. I know I reference that a lot. It's one of my favorite textures and products, but it's not an awesome color for me. And for some people, I know they find it quite tacky on the skin. So if you like something like the Face and Body, I think you will really like this. It definitely sets better and feels like nothing. Like the texture is really good. And I will say blurring for sure. I got no primer on any part of my face, and around my T-zone and my ice pick scarring, I do notice the blurring for sure. Compared to the Pro Filt'r Hydrating, I'm actually just going to, you know, destash this because I find the color is not awesome. I don't like the way it sits on my skin as much as, say, this one. It's not uber expensive, but I feel like I am using a lot, so that is something to think about as I continue to try this one out. If you have any questions or comments, additional information that you want, I'll put everything I can find kind of in the information bar for you. Just click open that to get any details, and again, any of my other color match in other foundation brands. But if you got a specific question, pop it down for me in the comments down below. What do you think of the new Fenty release, the Eaze drop? Are you going to try it out? Are you hyped about it? Are you excited? I think this might be got a bit of a prime real estate potential in my summer collection. Can't wait to chat with you in the comments. Take care. Bye, everybody.